This episode of Legacy Curious is brought to you by Legacy Protectors. Customize insurance strategies for business owners and families who aspire to create a lasting legacy. Hello there, and welcome to Legacy Curious, the show where we explore what it really means to protect, grow, and pass on everything you've worked so hard to build. I'm your host, David Gravelle. I'm a life insurance strategist, business legacy coach, and founder of Legacy Protectors. Each episode, I sit down with the bold thinkers, entrepreneurs, and everyday visionaries who are turning their values into lasting impact in business, in life, and across generations. Today's guest is a powerhouse in business transformation. Alejandro Herrera, the founder and CEO of RenovElite Creations, a business growth consultancy known for turning operational chaos into scalable clarity. As a business consultant, operations strategist, and partner at SipAwayy, Alex is the go-to expert for entrepreneurs who are ready to stop spinning their wheels and start scaling with structure. With a sharp eye for systems and a passion for precision, Alex has helped countless founders and leadership teams eliminate bottlenecks, streamline workflows, and build businesses that don't just grow, but thrive without constant oversight. Whether through high-impact consulting or execution-driven roadmaps, his approach is rooted in clarity, efficiency, and measurable results. Under his leadership, RenovElite Creations has earned accreditation with the Better Business Bureau and a reputation for delivering high-value transformation with hands-on execution. If you're ready to hear what it takes to scale smart and lead with intention, you're in for a masterclass. All right, well, welcome to the show. Alex, how are you today?
I'm doing well, man. Just looking forward to this interview. Really looking forward to it, honestly. Can't wait.
Fantastic. Well, we're glad you're here. Tell us where you're calling us from. What part of the country do you live in?
Yeah, I live in a small town called Patterson out in California, in the northern region.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have another Californian. We've had a couple on the show, and I met you on Alignable, and right away I knew that you'd probably be a good guest here. So let's just get started by, having your original life story being told in your own voice. So tell us about where you were born and where you grew up.
Yeah, of course. So I grew up in Mexico. It's called Guerrero. I think that's the state. And it was a city called Zihuatanejo. It's a kind of a tourist spot. Very beautiful beaches, I tell you.
Yeah. Is it on the Gulf Coast or on the ocean coast?
Close to the ocean, yeah.
Okay.
And, the sad thing was that I was only there up until probably 5-6 years old. At 7, my parents ended up splitting up, and my mom ended up going to live in with their parents, my grandpa and grandma, and they happened to live in the boonies, you know what I'm saying, in the outskirts of anywhere. There were literally no roads to get there. It was just,
wow.
ATVs and those type of, off-roading cars, yeah. Or get yourself a horse or something to go get around.
Sure. Yeah.
It was quite the change, but I was young. I didn't really know. I saw freedom for me.
That's right. Yeah. And I would imagine it gave you a chance to just enjoy the natural surroundings, right? As a kid and explore that. Is that what your life was like? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, man. For 2 years, it was literally just us and the wilderness. Out, right there, it was probably about 20 houses that lived in that little spot. It was tiny, man. Yeah. And everybody knew each other, right? It was just like a small community. And it helps you appreciate those little things, right? Things that sometimes when you grow up in the city, you tend to not take appreciation.
Yeah, you can get distractions from the big city lights, and of course the hustle and bustle of just kind of the urban jungle. Trying to survive there can take you away from nature. So what was life like for you there? Did you have any sporting pursuits? Were you able to discover music or any other interests?
It wasn't it was so small that they didn't have a budget for any, activities like that. But the thing is that I did discover about myself that I had a very good mind. Like I could study, write a couple pages, and then I would recall word by word what I read.
Yeah.
And, it was phenomenal, honestly, throughout up until I believe 8 years old when, everything happened with my parents and then we readjusted. I was the first, I was always recognized in school as, as the best kid in the,
Yeah.
as the whole school. So, I was very bright. And my parents split up. That did a number on me. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't want to admit it at first, but I guess I did fall into depression. Right? You little kid, you really don't know what's going on with
Right.
when things like this
Yeah.
happen.
You're a victim
And
of circumstance. Right.
yeah, and the worst part was that when my parents split up, it wasn't just I went with my mom. It was I went with my grandparents, and both of my parents were gone because my dad kind of went on his own, and then my mom was like, "Well, now what I do, right?" So one of her first thing was kind of get things together and come to California and try to work over here to send money for us, and that's how we lived for the 2 years and a half after they got divorced. So very tough, but it also showed me that who I can rely on, right? People that are always going to be there for you. And, I had two siblings, so I kind of had to grow up a little bit, fast.
Sure.
By the age of 7, when, we were with my grandparents, I actually ended up getting a small time job out there in the little community we had. You don't see that here, but, in small communities, you got to get milk somehow,
That's it.
right?
Yeah.
And over
Right.
there, you had the cows and people were doing manual labor. So it was kind of my job to separate the cows from, their babies. So the next day they would be full with milk.
Sure.
And, it showed me that you don't really need to go to school or anything to start generating some type of income, right? You just got to be resourceful. And that's kind of where I got my resourcefulness from being in those type of environments that you literally had nothing, right? Everything is against you to,
Right.
to do everything.
Right.
And, I still find a way to make money, even as a 7-year-old, right? I found a way to not just be in that circumstances, but keep going. And I'm like, okay, there's got to be somewhere out there that I can go to.
Sure. Sure.
And about 9 years old, I was about to be 10 when my mom had finally, gathered enough resources to get me and my siblings into California. And at first, I was very disappointed, right? Because I'm trying to build something over here. I saw a future, with cows and with these people.
Right. Yeah, you're just
Nowadays,
getting used to that lifestyle. You're like, yeah, this is my community.
yeah, you start making a little bit of money, and a paycheck is what they pay you to forget about your dreams. And I fell in that trap way too young, right? So when they kind of took that away from me, I was a little bit bitter. Um, and when I came out here in California, right, I had to start all over again. No friends, no money, no ways to make any money, right? Because over
Right.
here, there's just so many requirements for you to make anything.
Right. Yeah.
And, I felt caged, to be honest. And then all that um, things that I had bottled up right when my parents separated just came back to me because
Sure.
when this happened, it was just like that, right? My mom and dad were gone, and then I was with my grandparents, and that was it.
Overnight. Right.
Oh, yeah, overnight. And,
Yeah.
I come back, I see her face, and all of that just comes back.
Right.
And I wouldn't let it go, man. It was eating me inside. I held it against her, right? That over here we don't have anything. Over there at least I had a job, I had money.
Right. Right.
Stupid things.
Yeah. All new problems. Right. You're in a new
Yeah.
situation, and probably did you have language barrier too, or were you
Oh
speaking
yeah.
English at home? Okay, so still trying to adjust and
Yeah.
make changes. When did that kind of change for you, and you started to feel like, okay, this is going to be my home, and and I can find a way here. When did that start to feel more normal to you? How long did that take?
It took a couple years, probably about 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
An incident happened in school, and I got kicked out of that district, and I was literally about to get arrested. I was about like I think 14 years old, and I was like, oh, sure enough, right? This kind of screw up is gonna make my mom angry at me and send me back to my grandparents.
Right. You're looking for a way to get out.
Yeah, and when that didn't happen, I kind of just came to terms with it. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Doesn't matter what I do, she's not gonna send me back. And that's when I started really focusing on the language, right, and understanding it, and really be a part of it because I always felt like an outsider, right? Especially when you don't know the language, and
Sure.
even when you do know the language, right, as an immigrant, you're always going to be looked at as some type of outsider in
That's
some
right.
circles.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm from Canada, and I met my wife while while I was living in Bermuda, and living here, I feel the same way. Just always striving to be accepted, trying to stay out of trouble, do my best, on my best behavior, trying to give them no reason to exclude me or to think less of me. So it's a challenge every day for all of us. So okay, so now you're kind of a young man. You've got some changes that kind of changed your character. It sounds like into more resolve to make it work here. What comes next? After high school, did you further your education, or was it time to start to find work or start your own business?
Yeah, so throughout my high school years, actually, I just like every immigrant, right? You go out and you get a fake, whatever to go work. And that's kind of what I did. I went out and I got an ID that said I was 18. Um, and I was working under the table for some people, as a full-time job, right? Because, right, immigrants, you got to help the family out. You got to
Right.
help out any way you can. And that was kind of what I went through high school, right? I was always working. Um, my grades, though, they were always good. Honestly, I'm happy to say that I graduated with B's and A's, right? Um, so even though I had a rough upcoming, I was still taking care of my academics. Um, and part of that was because I was able to hang out with people that were older than me.
Okay.
Given that I came from a very small community, there was very small. There weren't that many small children there, right? So I grew up with hanging out with older people, and when I came out here, that's where I pivoted, right, to kind of look for people that were older than me to hang out with.
Sure.
And through high school, I met great folks. They were bankers, right, and so I kind of wrote on their coat, right? Whenever I need help writing essays or anything like that, I will get them to help me out. Um, but typical teenager, I would party, I would drink.
Sure.
Especially when you have a little bit of money, right? You do all sorts of crazy things.
It's the discovery time of your life, right? You got some freedom, you got some economic wherewithal to kind of indulge yourself, and again, that's I think just part of being a human is finding out what's possible for you, what you're able to do in a lot of different areas that, again, you get exposed to, especially in a big city. I'm sure there's plenty of opportunities to get in trouble. So, okay, so you're a young man working now, and, how much longer before you decided that you were going to be an entrepreneur, and what was that journey like?
Yeah, so right after high school, man, it hit me, right? Like I told you, I had started to work since like 7 years old, right?
Right.
And I never really stopped. So when I get out of high school, I was, I think, 17 or 18. And I'm like, how come all these other kids have more money than me? Like, I've been working for a lot longer, know?
Right.
And I'm like, there's no way that they're smarter than me. There's got to be something else that is helping them achieve the success that they have. And by some stroke of luck, I came across a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Sure. Yeah.
And, talked about a rich dad and a poor dad. I'm like, that's interesting, right? And I was never somebody to like books, but I don't know what happened the
It
moment
just
I
takes
picked
the right one, Alex. I'll tell you right now. It was the same way. But,
it.
Princess Bride was one of my books when I was a kid. I was like, okay, books can be fun. Yeah, it
Yeah,
changed everything. And The Rich Dad
yeah,
Poor Dad, I read that as a young man. Same thing. Think and Grow Rich, another one.
yeah.
You're a Badass, which is by Jen Sincero, who I'm promoting on this channel too. So my viewers
Nice.
check that one out. Yeah, so it just takes the right book.
It really does. It really does. Honestly, after I picked that book up, I read it from cover to cover. I've never, not even in school,
Right, right. No one
and
asked you to. You didn't have to make a book report. Yeah, you're just compelled by turning the
yeah,
pages. Yeah, good stuff in it.
you know,
Sure.
when and then that's kind of when I found out that knowledge can be fun, but when I picked when I picked the subject,
Right,
in school they kind of just cramp everything and okay, you got to learn this, learn
right. It's
that.
forced on you. Right. When you get to make the choices, that's a freedom that it just changes your learning experience. I can speak to that, 100%.
It really does, man. And like I said, I'm someone that by all means shouldn't be here, right? Everything was against me from the get
Right.
go, and it only took that one book. Next thing you know, I'm learning about Tony Robbins, and that guy just turned my life around completely. Um, I looked at his story and I was like, wow, like I thought I had it rough, right? This guy, it's insane,
Yeah.
So I learned about his mentor, Jim Ron. I'm like, okay, I gotta listen to this guy, right? I'm like, if he helped him, this guy gotta be something else. So I look
Right.
at Jim Ron, phenomenal guy. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And like these people weren't supposed to be successful.
Yeah.
And and then his mentor, Bob Proctor, I was just, it just kept blowing me away over and over again. And I tell you, when I got out of high school, right, just like anybody else, we party, drink, everything. I
Right.
stopped all of that. I cut that off. To this day, I don't even have any high school friends. That's how bad it got.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I cut everything off. We don't even have cable in my house. That's how deep it got. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Right. Yeah.
Um, I got into podcasts. I got into listening to people, and driving. That was huge for me. Anytime I got in the car, I would listen to someone speak. Never listen to music. Never.
Yeah.
And I try to not listen to music a lot because it doesn't help you, right? Learning the lyrics to a song won't do anything for you, but learning some skills, right, or listening to someone talk about something is might ignite the fire in you that you need to go and
Sure.
make something happen. And then one of the philosophies I live by is better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Right.
So I dove deep into personal development. I started learning web designs, social media management, and right after high school, I ended up getting a job at a mechanic shop. Um, within a year, I was one of the highest paying guys in there. Like I was just going, and
Yeah.
my family back in Mexico were all mechanics, right? And kind of the line broke with me because my dad and all that. Anyways, for some reason, mechanics just clicked with me, and it made perfect sense in my head. So the moment I touched the wrench, it was like I was meant to do that stuff,
Right.
right? And
Right. Yeah. Your brain's wired that way, right? You have that spatial and the mechanical
yeah,
aptitude.
and I'm telling you, within a year, I was the third highest paying guy in the company, right? And there was people that had been there for years,
Yeah.
and a lot of people were angry, right? They're like, how come this guy is getting paid so much? And I'm like,
Right.
because I paid attention,
Is I'm worth
and
it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Not me.
I was always the one that carried a notebook with me, taking notes. Anything I did, right? I would always take a note. and always wrote it down because I'm like, I can't trust my brain to remember some
Right.
good ideas.
No takers are money makers. That's what they say. Yeah.
You know, 5 minutes from when you have a good idea, I guarantee you, if you didn't write it down, it's gone.
Right.
And good luck trying to remember it.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, you know, I've always taken notes, but within 2 years, 2019 rolled around, and I couldn't stand it anymore. I was reading so many books. I had all this knowledge about, you know, website marketing, and you know, mechanics stopped being fun. I'm like, I don't like this anymore. One of the reasons was because I talked to the highest paying guy in the shop, and I was like, dude, you know, I don't want to intrude on you, but how much do you get paid? And you know, he was pretty cool about it. He said, I get paid $55 an hour, and he was like, as a mechanic, that's where we're capped, so they won't offer me anymore. I'm like, oh shit. And this guy went to freaking mechanic school, right? And I was like, Jesus Christ, that's a lot.
That is for being trained. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, and then you
Active
gotta get
trained.
capped at 55. I'm like, that's insane, right? I'm like, you know, I became the third highest paying guy with no degree in a year. I'm like, in a couple more years, I'll probably be good enough to get paid what you get paid.
Right. Right. And then you're
And then,
capped.
and then I'm capped. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's no
not fair.
fun.
That's right.
no
That doesn't fly with me.
And
Yeah.
I started learning more about entrepreneurship, and I started to enjoy it. I started to really like it, man. And I started telling my partner at the time, you know, I'm like, I'm thinking of quitting my job. And at the time, she was actually not working because we had just had another kid.
Mm-hmm.
And so she, you know, she was taking her time off. And then now I come like, oh, you know, I want to take some time
I
off.
want to quit. Yeah, I bet you that went over well. By the way, love you.
Right. And oh, my camera.
There you go.
And
Don't worry. We'll edit that.
cool. Let me take a sip of water.
Sure.
So, you know, I started telling my parents then after that I want to quit my job, you know, and to them, mechanics it's a career, right? People make careers out of it.
Sure.
And it's a decent career.
Yep.
And when my parents, you know, seeing that I was making that and doing that without a degree and having to go to school, they were, you know, over the moon. They're like, you made it, you know, you made it.
Right.
And
Right.
like,
Congratulations. Right. Yeah. I think you hit the finish line. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And in my head, I'm like, no, I'm just not going anywhere here. And I tell them, you know, I want to quit and I want to do marketing. I want to work from home. The moment they heard work from home, they were like, what the hell is that?
Exactly. That generation doesn't understand that. You can't stay at home and work. Who's paying you to stay at home? It doesn't make any sense, right? You got to go somewhere and work for somebody.
Yeah. So, you know, mentality from, you know, people that come
pre-COVID for sure. Once COVID hit, you know, everyone figured out I got to do something from home, right?
Yeah, that is true. That is true. So, you know, one day I had not one day, you know, I had kind of taken my attention off from my job in, you know, my 9 to 5, because I was just so devoted in what I was learning that the job started to suffer. Like my work started to show. And I was very good with the manager, and it was my kid's birthday, and they came over, and he brought me to the side, and he was like, dude, like, I don't know what's going on with you, but he's like, you know, the boss is starting to talk that he might want to replace you because of your performance has dropped drastically.
Ouch.
And I was like, oh, shoot. And then I was like, you know, I'm like, he's right. You know, my performance has dropped drastically because I don't have a drive for it anymore, you know? Yeah. And when you don't have a drive for what you do, your work is going to suffer a lot. And when you have been excelling at what you do, oh man, everybody will know,
Yeah.
So that's kind of what happened, right? I was at the
And
top.
you can't hide, especially in a garage, right? They know
Yeah,
right away. Yeah,
yeah,
you're on the clock all the time to get the standard hour worth of work. You should be able to accomplish this, and if you're not doing that, then everybody is asking why, right?
yeah. It's very, very easy to track what you're doing and how well you're doing based on,
Right.
the people that are driving the car. This car doesn't
That's
feel
it.
well.
Yeah.
And so, your work suffers. And I had too many of those, and, they were starting to talk. And I'm like, you know what? It's time. It's time for me to move. And Monday came in, I put my 2 weeks in, and that was it. No cushion, no nothing, no plan B.
Right. Just jump out,
Just,
build a parachute on the way
yeah,
down the
yeah,
plane. Right. Yeah.
just the dream and a passion that I was going to do whatever it took, and I was going to work as many hours as it took, just so that I wouldn't have to go and clock in for someone else.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand that when you open up a business from scratch, you're not going to have free time, right? And a lot of people get it twisted. They're like, I'm going to open up a business so I can have free time. No, you won't.
Right. Right. Oh, yeah. You're going to lose all of that after. There's no such thing as punching a clock. It follows you
Yeah,
everywhere. Yeah.
yeah. Forget about playing golf on the weekends, right? That's gone for sure. And any other activity that you have going on.
Yeah. You can't take 4 hours off.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no, no. And
Yeah.
people don't understand. I feel like a lot of people that are trying to get in entrepreneurship misunderstand that point. That, oh, they get to it for the wrong reasons.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
and,
Exactly.
and just because you're passionate about something doesn't mean that you have what it takes to make it into a business. And I've met so many people that don't understand that. I was lucky enough to, I guess, understand that point, right? Yeah, out of 10 businesses that start, one is going to stay alive after 5 years, right?
Right.
Your chances are very slim.
Sure.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
when in 2019, right, I did start a side gig of trying to do like mechanic work on my own, try to break off at first, and it didn't work out, right? That one blew up on my face real quick. And then my second business I started was a marketing agency called the Phoenix Agency. And what it did was, websites. I went around people, mechanic shops, because that's kind of what I do.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
I'll tell them, I will help you get more clients in. We're not going to run advertisement, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and bring fleet management accounts to you so that you can service those trucks, right?
Sure.
And a lot of
That's good
people,
work. That's good work.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Consistent. You can get, charge your rate. Yeah. You can build on
yeah,
those successes by telling others that you're doing it. One of their
and
competitors, maybe. Yeah.
yeah, and people loved it, right? Some business owners were hesitant because they're not negotiators, right? So and then that's kind of a really key part of the process when you're bringing a fleet management account, the negotiation, because that manager is going to try to keep as much money in their pockets as possible, and your job is to try to get as much money from them as possible, right?
Right. Right.
So, and that part right there is what owners hate from the mechanic shop, because they're like, they never want to pay us.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, but it only makes sense for them to come and get an account with you, because then you can go service the trucks where they're working, and they don't have to send their workers to bring the cars to
Right.
you. Because
On the clock, right? You're paying the guy to
yeah,
sit there while the truck's getting work done. Yeah.
exactly. But
Yeah.
business owners aren't thinking about that. They're just trying to get as much money from them as possible. And me from the outside, I can see it. So I tell this to the managers, and they're like, it makes sense. I'll pay a premium for this service, right? Because then I'm still saving,
That's it.
because I'm not
That's
having,
right. The
I'm
hourly
not
worker
having
rate is priced in. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's
yeah.
great.
So it worked out really good. And then probably within a year, it was 2020. It was about to be 2022. I get a cease and desist letter. I was infringing on someone's rights, and I was like, "Oh shit!" So yeah, I know. We had a credit. They asked me if I wanted to keep using the logo. I had to, pay them, and I was like, you know what, I don't want to do that. So I decided to stop that and just kept going with what I was doing, but not anymore with an LLC, just as a freelancer.
Yeah.
And then our 2022, I met a guy in Turlock right here in the town next over, and he had a mechanic shop, and he was looking for a manager to manage the people. And I'm like, I was like, I just started a business, but I'm like, I don't really know how to manage people. And then he was like, well, you have a lot of experience with mechanic shops, that you want to come and manage my shop, and then you get to learn how to manage people.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, that works out very well.
Yeah.
So I went, and the perfect thing was that he would allow me to do meetings throughout the day. Like if I would get a client and I need to hop on in a meeting throughout the day, he would literally allow me to do that. So I was like, hell yeah,
Yeah.
I'll come in, I'll help you. And man, I made the guy probably about close to $1 million within a year of running the shop. Yeah, it was phenomenal.
Awesome.
And 2023 rolled around, October. I was like, you know what? I think I have enough experience to start building a team and start making something on my own again. And that's when we decided to start RenovElite Creations and shoot for the stars again.
Yeah, good. Okay, so that brings us current. So tell our audience, we're going to have the link in the description, but tell us again where they can find your website.
Yeah, RenoveliteCreations.com, and that is spelled RENOVELITE Creations.com. You can find us there. We have everything that we do, and you can also see some of the people that we work with. Given the work that we do, we can't really post things out there for people to see, right? But you can at least see the people that we work with, and you can get an idea of who we are.
Yeah. So talk a bit about what's a good client for you. Typically, what type of businesses, what kind of needs do they need to have that you're fulfilling?
We fulfill business problems in a sense. It's very wide what we do, given that we have a lot of people involved right now. We started as a digital marketing agency, right? And over the time we evolved. Now we are a business consulting on operation efficiency. And right, that can be many things.
Sure.
So when we take down all the layers from a business, right, and leave the core, the issues kind of stay the same across the board. And those core issues is what we come here to fix, because those are the things that are literally holding you back and making you bleed money and time like you have no idea.
Sure. So the first step sounds like you do some type of discovery or documenting the current state. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
And then then you propose a future state and help them implement that, right? Is that fair?
Yes, perfectly said. We come in, the perfect client for us is someone that is starting to see success in their business and doesn't know how to move beyond that, right? Again, the average entrepreneur starts something, but we don't know finances, right? We don't know how to go hire people, and hiring, it's so important. If you don't get that down correctly, you're going to be spending so much money in the turnaround. It's not even funny, and that alone can tank your business in a couple months. You know what I'm saying? And I've seen people, or I've seen businesses have, 10 people leave in less than 3 months, right? Imagine how much money they lost, right?
Right.
But those companies are only able to do that because they're big. If they were small, they would close doors.
Right.
So, for us as small guys, it's very crucial to understand that point. Hiring the right person is so crucial in the early stages, because that can make or break your business. Right. So that's something that we help businesses do, right? Again, the core things of a business, right? It's knowing how to hire, right? Everybody should know how to hire. Everybody should have a system in place that help them choose the right candidates, because You might get 20 people that on paper, everything looks good. But once you put them to the test, that's when
Right.
you start to see who
Exactly.
breaks and who doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And most companies don't have that, right? They just have an interview, maybe two interviews, maybe three interviews, but it's all paper. It's all words.
It's all interview skills too, right? So,
Yeah.
you
So,
taking their word on a
if,
lot of things.
yeah, if I can talk, if I'm someone that is a smooth talker, I made it, right? Even if my skills are garbage, all I got to do is put it pretty on paper. And I like to tell companies you have to go a step farther than that, right? Do some type of test, right? Depending on what you do, because you got to become a little bit more elaborate, especially when you get a lot of people, trying to hire or trying to get hired.
Trying to
Uh,
apply, right? Yeah.
yeah, we like to do kind of like a contest and see who comes out at top, right? And then you pick that person because then they kind of went through the fire and they didn't crack, right? And
Right.
and that is he going to be the best person? You don't know, but the chances are higher because he kind of went through some type of judgment or something that will help
Yeah.
him or help you understand. Okay, you know what? This guy got the skills to make this happen. You know.
Right. They got the resolve, got the personal
Mhm,
wherewithal to, soldier through the challenges, because
mhm.
that's what you're asking of them every day, is to, adapt, take the good with the bad, and again, smile for the client and make it
Yeah.
successful, in a lot of different ways that doesn't show up, necessarily on a resume. So how
Hmm.
do people get started, Alex? What's the best way to get in touch with you? Just through your
Um,
website? What should they do to learn more, to get engaged?
Yeah, man. We have also Facebook. You can find us on Facebook, RenovElite Creations. We're
Okay.
also on LinkedIn. Again, RenovElite Creations. You can find us on there. Um, right
So
now,
we'll
we
have
are
all
gonna.
that. Yeah, we'll have that all in the description. So those are good places for them to find you and get started.
Yeah, and then if you guys want to call the office directly, right? We have our phone number 916 252 3129, and a beautiful lady will answer the call.
Yeah, great, great. Okay, and then they'll engage just one-on-one consulting, and then when you're determining, what's the services going to have basically scope of work, and then you'll have a fee for that scope of work and milestones. I'm assuming. I'm just putting words in your mouth
Yeah.
here. So
Yeah, so how we like to do things, just because we like to make sure we put a lot of value on time, especially me. I'm someone that values time a lot, right? Because especially for those early founders, if you don't put value on your time, you're going to be burning it like you have no idea.
yeah,
Um, so that's something that I like to tell people, right? Understand how much your time is valued to you, right? Or how much would you like it to be valued, and try to work around that. Um, and we've created a form. It's called like a discovery form. It takes you like 2-3 minutes to kind of go over it and answer it, and then that kind of gives us an idea of where the meeting is going to go to and see if there's
sure.
anything that we can help you with, or we
Yeah,
might be able to refer you to somebody. um, but again, we're not really teaching anybody new tricks. We're just trying to help people remember why they started, right?
sure.
After 20 years of doing business, right, a lot of people get into that cycle of repetitive work, of wearing all the hats, and the longer you do it, the harder it is to give up that.
Sure is. Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
But again,
Um,
if you're giving them time back, they're the most important employee most times
mhm.
in the
Oh yeah,
organization, and so saving them an hour, that saves more money than saving one of their admin or sales staff an hour.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. The
great.
the average founder, business owner, right now, we're saving them over 44 hours a month
Wow.
on
Okay.
mismanaged time,
Yeah.
right?
Multiply
Imagine
that
how.
by $150 an hour, probably somewhere in that neighborhood. Yeah.
Right. And I find that most founders are actually, their time is probably around $300 an hour.
Yeah.
So it actually, you could be burning about $15,000 a month in mismanaged time and you don't even know it.
Right.
Um, and then when you apply that throughout your team, man, you cry when you see those answers.
Right. Yeah.
The other
Tears of joy,
day,
no doubt. Tears of joy once they're able to see how you're going to be able to help them. Yeah. All
yeah,
right, Alex. It's time for the $1,000,000 question here on Legacy
yeah.
Curious. So tell us about your ideas for your legacy and what you hope to be remembered for.
My ideas for the future is build something that will stay here even after I'm gone, right? RenovElite Creations, I want it to be here forever. And that's what we're working towards right now, being automated and self-sufficient as a business. Um, we implement a lot of AI. Right now, we're actually going to start building our own AI systems so that it can operate autonomously.
Yeah.
And
Exciting.
I want to be remembered by someone that likes to help people, and especially young children. I believe that kids are our future, and if we don't take care of them, then our future is going to be garbage. I personally have 3 kids, so and I want to have more. I'm actually wanting to get a nonprofit started to help kids that have lost their parents or that are don't have anywhere to live. Again, just given that I come from very humble backgrounds and I've seen firsthand, right, how bad the other side is. I want to be able to make something and that can help that part of town.
Well, on behalf of all the people that you're going to help, thank you for doing that. We are very sympathetic to the people that work, for the betterment of the community here on this channel. So any viewer, if you have any help for Alex in that area, reach out in the contact information in the description and get Alex, started on his journey. And want to thank you for joining us today, Alex. We'll look forward to having you back in the future. Maybe you can teach us something to help our business owners in their everyday lives, save some time.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many tips, and honestly, they're so simple that they get overlooked so easily. And I tell people, right, it's the simple things that we take for granted. You're like, yeah, I don't think that would actually help me out, or I don't think that would, work for me. But when you start to apply, you're like, holy crap, that actually works. And it's so simple, right? And it's those little things that make the biggest difference. So again, we're not trying to teach people new things. We're just trying to help them remember those little things that they already know that they're overlooking,
Great. Well, we'll look forward to that, Alex. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you soon.
David, thank you for having me.
Thank you to our listeners and audience for spending time with us today on Legacy Curious. I hope this conversation gave you some insight, encouragement, or just that little spark you needed to keep you moving forward in your own legacy journey. If you got value from today's episode, please take a second to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone else who's building something that matters. And if you're ready to take that next step, protecting your business, planning for retirement, or passing on your legacy with purpose, head to legacyprotectors.life to schedule a conversation. Until next time, I'm your host, David Gravelle, reminding you to stay curious, stay committed, and keep building something worth passing on.